Imagine traveling to Silicon Valley in 1973. You walk into a research laboratory in Palo Alto. Inside, you see something impossible. A computer with windows on a screen, clickable icons, a mouse, networked communication, digital documents, electronic messaging, laser printing. In other words, you see the future. Not 10 years in the future, not 20 years in the future we are living in today. And yet almost nobody outside the building realizes what they're looking at. Because some places don't just invent products. Some places invent entire eras. This is the story of Xerox PARC, the laboratory that may have come closer than any institution in history to seeing the future before everyone else. By the late 1960s, computing was powerful, but it wasn't personal. Most computers lived inside large organizations, universities, governments, major corporations. Users interacted through terminals, punch cards, command line systems, specialized operators. Computers processed information, but they weren't part of everyday life. Very few people imagined a future where every individual would have a computer. Fewer still imagined those computers connected together through digital networks. Yet a group of researchers in Palo Alto believed exactly that. In 1970, Xerox established a new research center in Palo Alto, PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center. The mission wasn't to improve photocopiers. It wasn't to optimize existing products. The mission was much more ambitious. Explore the future of information technology. This distinction mattered. Most organizations focus on predictable outcomes. PARC focused on possibilities. Researchers were encouraged to experiment, to explore, to think beyond existing markets. And when talented people receive freedom, interesting things tend to happen. One of PARC's most important creations was a computer called the Xerox Alto. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. It never became a mass-market product. Most people never used one. Most people never even saw one. Yet historians now view it as one of the most influential computers ever built. Because inside the Alto were ideas that would eventually define modern computing. A graphical display, windows, icons, mouse interaction, networking capabilities, digital documents, features we now consider normal, features that seemed extraordinary in the early 1970s. The Alto wasn't merely a computer. It was a prototype of the future. Perhaps PARC's most famous contribution involved the graphical user interface. Today, we interact with computers visually. We click, drag, tap, open windows, move files, select icons. These interactions feel obvious. They're not. For much of computing history, users communicated through text commands. Computers required specialized knowledge, technical expertise, memorization. PARC researchers envisioned something radically different. Computers should adapt to humans. Humans shouldn't have to adapt to computers. This philosophy changed everything. The graphical interface made computing accessible to millions of people who would never learn command line systems. The technology would later influence Apple, Microsoft, and the broader personal computing industry. But the ideas emerged here first. Not one breakthrough. Many. Most research laboratories become famous for a single achievement. PARC was different. Again and again, breakthrough ideas emerged from the same environment. Graphical interfaces, laser printing, Ethernet networking, distributed computing, object-oriented software environments, networked personal workstations. The sheer concentration of innovation was remarkable. Imagine visiting a laboratory that helped shape how computers look, how computers communicate, how documents are printed, how software is designed, how people interact with information. That was PARC. It wasn't creating one future. It was exploring many futures simultaneously. The myth. Over time, a popular narrative emerged. Xerox PARC invented everything, then failed to profit from it. Reality is more complicated. Many PARC innovations built upon earlier research from institutions such as Stanford Research Institute, MIT, DARPA, academic computer science laboratories. PARC didn't invent every idea. What made PARC extraordinary was integration. Researchers combined multiple concepts into practical systems. They transformed theories into experiences. And contrary to popular mythology, Xerox successfully commercialized some innovations, particularly laser printing. Still, many computing breakthroughs found broader commercial success through other companies. Apple, Microsoft, Adobe, 3Com, and many others. The influence spread throughout the industry. Why PARC matters? The deeper story isn't about individual inventions. It's about environments. PARC demonstrated something profoundly important. When talented people from different disciplines work closely together, when long-term research receives support, when exploration matters more than immediate profit, unexpected breakthroughs become possible. Not guaranteed, possible. And over time, that possibility becomes incredibly valuable. Because breakthrough ideas rarely emerge on schedule, they emerge where curiosity is allowed to flourish. If you followed the Bay origin story, this pattern should sound familiar. The Gold Rush concentrated ambitious people. Stanford concentrated talent. Fairchild concentrated semiconductor expertise. Sand Hill Road concentrated capital. PARC concentrated imagination. And concentration matters. Because when exceptional people gather in one place, ideas collide. Knowledge spreads. Unexpected connections emerge. Innovation accelerates. The ecosystem becomes more powerful than any individual participant. Throughout Bay origins, we've explored a recurring theme. The Bay Area's greatest strength has never been a single invention. Its greatest strength has been creating environments where inventions become more likely. PARC represents one of the clearest examples. The laboratory didn't literally invent the future, but it developed many of the technologies and concepts that would define the future of computing. The mouse, graphical interfaces, networking, digital documents, laser printing, not as isolated breakthroughs, but as part of a broader vision of how humans might interact with information. Which brings us back to the question at the heart of Bay origins. Why did it happen here? Perhaps because the Bay Area repeatedly created places where people were allowed to explore tomorrow before the rest of the world even knew what questions to ask. PARC's greatest achievement wasn't a single invention. It was creating a system capable of generating multiple breakthroughs. Great leaders build environments where innovation becomes more likely. Lesson 2. Integration creates value. Many PARC concepts existed elsewhere in some form. The breakthrough came from combining them into practical systems. Innovation often comes from connecting ideas, not inventing entirely new ones. Lesson 3. Research is an investment in optionality. Most PARC projects did not have immediate commercial value, but together they created possibilities that transformed entire industries. The future often belongs to organizations willing to invest before outcomes are obvious. PARC succeeded because it explored ideas that seemed unrealistic at the time. What project would your organization pursue if short-term certainty wasn't required? Inside a laboratory in Palo Alto, researchers imagined a world of personal computers, graphical interfaces, networking, digital documents, and electronic communication. Most of the world wasn't ready. The technology wasn't fully ready. The market wasn't ready. But the future was already taking shape. And once again, it was happening in the Bay Area. This is Bay Origins, birthplace of the future.